Hello and welcome everyone to another session from Will to Play. I'm Will Harris, your host in this Revit management training class, BIM Manager Survival Skills. Are you a BIM manager yet? Have you got that title update? Why not? Of course, we are talking about session 06, managing your system families. I hope we all know the difference between system and standard at this point. If not, plug for Carl, learn that family stuff. So in this session, well, we're going to talk about how system families work, talk about some view templates, other key template information that you need to address. Essentially, you need, just like for your family, your blocks, you need a set of Revit templates files that we want to be able to archive and have up on our BIM support or BIM standards folder. And these are just as important as your title block family, just as important as your default doors. Okay. The topics is, yes, they are different than standard families. We're going to talk about your file location, talk about some content and the reasons why I'm saying what I'm saying, and then how to use your standard families and the quote-unquote audit process that you should apply to your standard families. Of course, after this, we have the bonus lab section where I kind of show you some good step-by-step process, at which point in the fall, because all you guys are going to watch this all over again, because I realize that this is overwhelming for you. If this is the first time, and that's perfectly understandable, it's like you're learning a new language. And it's very frustrating because you knew this language before. It was called CAD, and now they call it Revit, and it's totally different. So in the fall, when you take this class second time, you will have a process lab all written out for you, just like we have with the families. So first one is, yes, they are different than standard families. This is going to be our first topic of our session. And well, what's the differences? The difference is standard families are going to be loaded into a project, right? You've got doors, you've got windows, those are loaded into a project. You get system families. Those are actually created within a project itself, and by created within a project itself, that's a very good yeah, so this is now the reason why they're held in a project itself. It's the reason why we want to talk and work on the system families and how this all is put together in your concise, wonderful way of doing Revit. Then we have, of course, the difference is that they are part of the template files as well as the part of the lowercase p project files. Every time you need to create a new one, it's the edit new duplicate. I'm giving you all the things that you want to mentally make check notes about to understand, oh, is this a standard family or a system family? And if I bring up Revit, we can see we have a list of families here, and as I move my mouse over them, well, does it tell me anything at this point? No. Let me check the door. Does it tell me anything at this point? No. Well, it didn't have the little pull down. Well, maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's the difference? No, because we have components which are also standard families loaded into the project. All right, here's the difference. If I start the wall command, what do I see in the context-sensitive menu? If I start the door command, what do I see in that versus the wall command? Look at the draw versus door. It's the load family issue. So this means that it is a system or standard family, everyone. What was it again? This one is standard. Wall is system, because you're basically drawing it in the project. You're making it live in the project. What about a floor? I never remember the shortcut for floor, so I just go over there, click on the floor, and what mode are we in? What do we see over here? What do we see way over on the right-hand side? We are in sketch mode. So if you're in sketch mode in a project, you are also in a system family. That's the first thing that you should be aware of. Here's another piece. Well, not the first thing. There's one of the many things you should be aware of. What happens whenever I change the type properties of the object? Right there it tells me it's a family, it's a system family, and I have to do the duplicate, the edit new thing. That whole is, that's the edit new button. In 2009 apparently just says duplicate, not edit new. It says edit new if you click on element properties. And then you go edit type, and then you duplicate. When you have to duplicate something like this, and when you have structure in this, all of your system families for walls, floors, roofs, ceilings, slabs are built the same way in here. So this is some editing stuff within that, and I will talk a little bit about that. But that's really the difference between the two. Again, door, you have the load family, or if you change, door, I'm using the shortcut key for DR. Notice that it just says family, single flush, edit type. There's a duplicate button, but it's a little different than the wall, element properties, system family wall. All right. Here we go. That's the first, I believe, topic. Do we have questions, comments, thoughts? Just the difference between the two and the importance of understanding the difference between the two. No? Nothing? Raise your hand, by the way, if you can talk and you would like to. Raise your hand so that I may unmute you, so that we can have a more valid conversation, because that's really what we want. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Laura. And you are unmuted. Doesn't mean that you actually have to unmute yourself. I mean, you can talk. You don't have to talk right now. Okay. Moving onward. I'm actually going to pause my screen for 1 second. I'm going to give you a nice little slide here. I had to grab it earlier. I forgot to paste it in here. And there it is. Keep source formatting. Play. There you go. Here's a nice breakdown of how the system families, standard families work as well. You have model elements. We have view specific elements. Wait, now is this a breakdown of system and standard families? Not really. What is it rather? It's the breakdown of the element type. What kind of objects are you using within Revit? So I'm going to throw you for a little loop here and say that sometimes you have system families that are model specific, and sometimes you have system families that are view specific. Sometimes you have families that are like standard families that are loaded in that are model elements. Sometimes your standard families are loaded in and they are view specific elements. So although there is a clear distinction between system and standard family as a black-white issue, there is another black-white issue here called your general model elements versus your view-specific elements, and system and standard families have been intermingled between both. And then right there in the middle, there's this fun thing called a datum. Datum elements, which are your grids, your reference lane, your reference lanes, reference planes, and levels. So be aware that although it may seem like they're the same, they're a little different. Laura, yes. What do you have to say? Have your hand raised.
Sorry, I just forgot to put my hand down.
Oh, great. Terry, if you would like, I can unmute you. You have, oh, okay. All right, well, then in that case, we're just going to move on. We're going to talk about some file location, some content, some reasons behind it. And the file location, of course, is wherever you decided your BIM standards